Hi, today I want to talk about a very crucial step in your monitoring. So, that means at what level should your speakers be? And how does that relate with what you are having on your DAW, right? This is going to imply a little bit of numbers and a little bit of workaround stuff. So, be patient. Please leave any questions in the comments if it isn't clear enough for you. Straight from Mexico City. My name is Francis. I've been doing this for 15 years plus, and I hope I can help you making your music sound a little bit better or on your audio workflow. So I have a session in Reaper, right? And if you haven't used this feature, remember that you can right click stuff or you can look on your action list for analyze loudness. And I have different reference tracks that I sometimes use for different needs. I have something from the 70s, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, something from Bonobo, Shadows. This is 2020 something, 2022. I have some Latin American music, like Moronava or Joaquina. These are also from recent years. I have also stuff from Sting. Of course, I could have Daft Punk, Get Lucky, or other stuff, but I'm using only stuff that sound super good. Like there's no question about how good they sound, right? I have some rock stuff like One Headlight by the Wallflowers, and like the list can go on. The point being is that you can see that the true peak in every single one of those is different. And I see people obsessing on the internet about what the true peak should be and how does that relate on how the people listening to your track will have a much better impact of how your music is sounding and a much higher volume. And there's a small difference that we should look into, right? So for me, I don't care about the loudness integrated. Like this doesn't matter for me as a mastering engineer. I really don't care about it. Pay attention to it when I'm maybe pushing things too hard. I never end up pushing things way too hard. So in the end, it really doesn't matter to me, but that's a whole other conversation. I know how, when, and why I should look for something in that number, but it's never a goal. It's never a target. It's never something that makes me make a decision of how things should sound. In any case, it's only to make a decision of if I should lower it cleanly, transparently, but not about processing, right? I'm much more interested in something like the crest factor or the range, the loudness range, or something like the momentary, right? This is the only value that I can actually think about when I'm talking about mastering and sometimes when I'm thinking about teaching mixing stuff, right? And these are the only two values that I could sometimes look at. There's also RMS and other stuff, and we can talk about that on another video. But if I go into Alabama Shakes, don't wanna fight, right? It has a plus zero point 0.1 dB true peak and a minus 2.3 LUFS momentary peak. Okay, so I'm going to add the screenshot from an Isotope blog because I think it explains it very precisely, and I'm just going to read it because it's easier to have it just like that. The issue with momentary loudness is that it specifies a 400 millisecond window. That means the time frame of what it's measuring and how long is it measuring for, and additionally stipulating that each measurement window should overlap the previous one by 75%. That way, if you have shorter sounds before that, that won't affect the average reading. That's different from the RMS. So it's easy to see why this is a much more precise measurement. And momentary peaks are more or less related to true peaks in a certain way. It's not always something like that, like 6 dBs, 3 dBs, or like there's not a very specific relationship because remember that it also relates to frequency content. It might relate to whatever came right before because it's measuring across 400 milliseconds. So if you come from a big silence and you suddenly get a big spike, that's going to measure very different than coming from 400 milliseconds that are completely at the same level, right? So if you don't have some meter that you can trust, even though in Reaper we have all of these tools, I do like the Julian loudness meter because you can configure it a little bit more. And even though I have my version of the loudness meter for Reaper, and I could make it like super long so I can have a much clearer resolution of what I'm trying to look for. And I'm also downfolding it to mono, so any phase cancellations that could cause any real danger to the content will reflect also there, right? I have my range, I have my momentary, and this is honestly pretty much the only one that I would be looking at. So I made a preset where I only look at momentary, right? And this is the one I have. And I also have to set up a color where it starts turning yellow, so it's a warning, and this works great. I don't have the true peak here. I don't care, because usually the true peak I can see it on my master meter. Or the other version of that is to simply have, by right-clicking on your master fader, to have the meter reading LUFS momentary, the readout to maximum, and the track control meter to have it reading peaks, right? So on the track control panel, I can have peaks. On the mix meters, I can have peaks only, or peaks plus loudness, or loudness only, and any variation of this, right? So I can have peaks plus loudness. This is the one that I like the most. And you will see that now I have two different ones. Let me remove. There we go. Now I have my peaks left and right, zooming in, and I have my momentary loudness, right? And this is so much more clear to read when I'm trying to figure out stuff. Honestly, like, this simply gives me much clearer information. So I don't need a loudness meter open, because I have it right there on blue. Okay, the next big thing is that if you take advantage of the feature of right-clicking on the Analyze window and go to the true peak, you will see that I have it marked right here on my files, on my items. This is the part of the item where I have my highest true peak. And I have a different moment where I have my highest momentary. And here it says 84 momentary. Let me clarify this. In my case, since I'm using Genelec speakers and I have the microphone that I can plug into the GLM connector, I have a reading when I have it, and that's what I use to calibrate my room before working, right? Because this is something that you should be doing first before thinking about working seriously, before actually taking a space seriously for working. So I have two levels of my monitoring system, right? 3 if you count the dim. At -14, when I have the max output of my computer, this should be reading on an SPL meter that would be down here, 80, 79, 78, 82. Crucial thing right here is that if you're measuring against music, you're definitely constrained to the dynamics and the type of music that you're using as a reference. So if you're doing it in a very live sound sort of situation, you would have to set up any new track, load a pink noise generator, have this hitting with your fader at 0, have this hitting 0 dBs here, 0 dBs full scale, which right now I won't have, and like, just be careful of your equipment, don't break anything, right? And this should be measuring 80 dB SPL. If you don't have something like Genelex, like, just download an app on your phone and make it that can measure dBs SPL, and try to get that 0 full scale with the fader at 0 to measure, here's the trick, 75, 73 even. Because the dynamics of the music matters. So if you have an RMS of around 73 and your music is dynamic enough and you have 6 to 9 dBs of dynamic range, 73 plus 9 is going to land around 82 peaks, right? If you're working at an RMS in studio, 80 dBs, 82 dBs, you're going to get tired really fast, you're going to annoy your neighbors, and probably if your room doesn't have the best acoustic treatment, you're just going to interact more with the room and get into problems. I have the different settings here because once I have this reference, I can save that position to one level, and it gets complex because I should be able to have my main out at 0 dB as well, but you will see that if I increase this to 0, I'm going to be 20 dBs up. That means 90 something. So it really doesn't make any sense. Or even if I push it to 0 here, I'm going to have to lower the output of my DAW by 20 dB to compensate. The good thing about having these extra steps of monitoring is that all of these are transparent. I'm not doing it from the DAW itself. I'm going to use transparent stages. So in the order of how this is working is I have my DAW first with my audio source. In this case, I have the software of my audio interface, and then I can adjust or trim with my controller volume for my speakers. I don't have a physical control for my speakers anymore, like I removed that completely. So level that I'm working with when I'm mixing or mastering, I'm always working like this. So I never hesitate. And whenever I'm listening back to music, I'm always listening to that level. So I know how my room sounds. I know what to expect from it. Big difference is when you're making music and you have samples here. This drum loop shouldn't be marking 80 dBs, right? Like it doesn't make any sense to have something like that. And you can see that it stopped at 73. That's the peak of that. Because I also have a way of doing my sample management that I have another video on that, and I will have it linked in the description. Because that way I know that I have a certain peak of my samples. I still have 6 more dBs to go up, and I was at 73 peak dBs SPL. So whenever I start adding channels and adding signals to my mix, I can lower the faders, and I can always make everything fit just by lowering a little bit the faders, because I'm already close enough to the actual level if I have a good sound source. Sometimes when I'm playing an instrument or having something else here, what will end up happening is that some things might be way too low because I'm struggling with levels or I'm doing whatever. So I have a second monitoring level that's 8 dBs above this one. So I can just hit it, right? And I can just go back to it. And I have that linked to my Stream Deck. You can see that I have here my mute and my dim of my speakers. And if I go up to my main screen, I have my level 1, my level 2, my dim, and my mute, right? That way I can always adapt to listening super low. If I'm trying to make small balance changes, I can go to a normal streaming level when I'm releasing music, and I can go into listening much better if I'm looking for a noise or something by just hitting +6, right? And even if I need something more, I can just boost this or change my mix with the snapshot. Like I can just do that. So again, I did this really small exercise of just writing down where are the peaks, right? So my true peak of Alabama Shakes is 84 dB SPL, and my max momentary is 84. That works great. But here it's 75 peak of my true peak, but my momentary is 79. Here I have true peak 78, and my momentary is 81. So I have, you can see where this is going, right? 83 and 83, this one matches. 83 and 83, this one matches. 79 and 79, this one matches. But it's not always going to match. 79 and 80, but sometimes you're getting 3 dB, 4 dB of an error margin. And this is a lot in audio. And you cannot work with that error margin. It's way too big. Because when that gets through a codecs or it goes into any other processing, that margin of error is going to be a lot of distortion added to whatever you're working with. So I highly suggest that you start taking advantage of thinking about your faders in another way. These faders, because I have them with a different reference level, even though they say -24, they are really a 0 full scale. I have 24 dBs where I can still keep going up. But that's just because that's the way that I like to watch it, right? I like to see it that way. If I play again this, I can see that as I scroll through the songs, I could make small adjustments from one song to another. That it could be, I think the lowest one was 73 SPL all the way up to 84. So I should be adding or splitting that 11 dB difference. But if I want to match them, I could just match them by momentary and let the SPL be closer to each other, right? Like that's going to work a lot better because momentary reflects better how is it going to play in the real world than some 0 full scale metering. Like this number doesn't mean anything. Because again, if you remember the most basic stuff about audio and listening, you will remember that having 80 dB SPL of certain frequency will not match the volume at which other frequencies are perceived. It's basic audio listening knowledge. Like if you can translate this, and that's what so many people that just copy paste and post on social media about what you should know about monitoring and the trick of Fletcher and Munson about this technique for mixing and making balances. It's a little bit more complex because you have to connect this big string. One thing is SPL, and that should be related to how you're listening stuff, not just because you're listening to stuff. The difference is that if you want to make decisions in this side of the table, you have to have your side of the table balanced and calibrated to this sort of information. Otherwise, you're just guessing. So, in order to reduce the amount of guessing work, do it like this. This should probably get you a lot faster once you spend enough hours, enough days listening to your system and listening to your room, to recorded music, to pre-mix music, to mixing sessions, or even production and recording sessions. Then it will make sense, because a recording, when you're just setting up a microphone for recording, it shouldn't be as loud just because as a master released song. It's meant to sound final and ready for the next step. And there's also a huge confusion in that part of how people phrase it. It's different to say that you have a sample that has to sound mastered, because I even seen people talk about mastered samples and like, that gives me a headache. Any stage of the production of any audio signal should be ready enough and good sounding enough for the next stage. That's the only thing. And for you to be able to always have a great criteria on is it ready or not, you should be able to translate different levels of monitoring to which content does that signal has. I hope this video wasn't way too freaky on my side. This is one of the things that I have studied for a while, and it can really change the way you're working and the way your work sounds and your music sounds if you pay attention and you explore this idea enough. We could talk about VU meters, we could talk about some other ways of how meters can help you, but you have to understand what you're looking at. Otherwise, you will start saying stuff like, meters have never helped me, because you can't read them. So how would they help you? If this video has been meaningful in any way to you, I really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell down below, leave a comment, share it with a friend, someone who's struggling with a certain stage in music production. Check out the rest of my videos. Or if you're trying to learn Reaper workflows in a much broader and like one single video sense, I have tons of videos like that. Go check my channel. And of course, go visit the rest of the Reaper Squad channels. They are all making great content, and you can learn a lot from every single one of them as well. I also have a link down below to buy me a coffee if you want to support my work, because that's one of the things that will let me keep on doing this for many, many months more. And if you're interested in maybe booking a private lesson, like just hit me up on my social media. It's also linked down below. Straight from Mexico City, my name is Juanchis, and thanks for listening.